Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day or night it is that you're watching this or listening to this. I'm Graham Wood from Rapid Change Hypnosis. And remember, if you're liking these videos, please click the subscribe button down below for more details, more information, and more of me and more of the people I'm talking to. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Derek Heron, a therapist from Scotland, way up there in Falkirk, cognitive cure. And he's going to talk to us about the use of body language and creating rapport, not only in hypnotherapy, but in everyday life. So,
Yep.
Derek, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's really
Introduce
nice to be
yourself a little
here.
bit and then just rattle on with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll drink my tea. Over to you.
Okay, so I'm a hypnotherapist based in central Scotland, and to be specific, Falkirk, which is a little town right between Glasgow and Edinburgh. Um, Body language is a real passion of mine, and it's weird because it started way back when I was actually 9 years old, which
Ooh.
is a bit bizarre. Yeah, how many 9-year-olds are into body language? Not many. The reason I got into that was my dad at the time was doing open university courses. And for those of you who don't know, or those of you who aren't as old as me and Graham, perhaps,
Thank
um,
you.
yep, Open University was all about, it was an affordable way to educate, for people who had left school to educate themselves. And this was in the times before computers, before online stuff. So the university would post out all your course materials in books and in records and cassettes, and you would watch the lectures on BBC Two on your television, right? So, quite often during the weekend, my dad would watch BBC Two and he would have his book out and he would take notes and stuff like that. And there was always open university programs on BBC Two. And I remember as a 9-year-old watching this one. It wasn't one of my dad's programs, but BBC Two was on. And it was an interview. This guy, the lecturer, was saying, "Okay, now you're going to watch this interview, and at some point, the interviewee will lie and tell lies and write down in your book when you think you've spotted the interviewee lying to the question, right?" So, and then it played this footage, and I was like, "Well, there, and then, and that's a lie too." And I could see the person being interviewed, when they were giving a response, that maybe their ankle would start to wave about. She was wearing high heel shoes and she would start flexing her ankle like this. And I thought, oh, that would be a lie. And
Mm.
so that was it. That was my first experience of body language. And in later life, and I'm sure Graham will appreciate this, I became a stage magician, and then I got into mentalism, apparent mind, the ability, to apparently read people's minds, and some of that requires body language, some of that requires influence and linguistics to make sure they choose the right thing that you want them to, and you can achieve that using linguistics, but you're also watching their body language that they're picking up your signals. So I loved body language in that respect again and used it there. The key to my body language career came when, forgive me for this, but the Sun newspaper. For those of you not in the UK, the Sun newspaper is not the most highly regarded newspaper in the UK. Okay,
Bit of a trashy rag.
it's a pretty trashy rag, right? But this was at a time when Scotland was considering independence and there was going to be a vote on independence. And the Scottish minister, a guy called Alex Salmond, was promoting Scottish independence. And the Sun News, and he was giving this big speech all about, it was actually about the potential Scottish pound, right? And he was giving this big speech and this, high level speech. And the Sun had approached a friend of mine to analyze Alex Salmond's body language. Unfortunately, this friend of mine was abroad at the time. He was doing some magic gigs and he just couldn't find the time to sit down and analyze, 20 minutes of footage. And he said to the reporter, I can't do it, but I know a man who can. And the guy gave him my details. I got a phone call from the Sun. They sent me all the blurb. I analysed the footage, sent it back, sent my findings to the Sun newspaper. They printed it, and that was it. The next thing I know, I'm getting magazines, newspapers, radio people phoning me, emailing me. Oh, here's footage, here's some photographs. Give me the body language analysis on this, that, and the next thing. Mainly celebrities, but some other nice gigs as well. So way back, Grazia magazine, for instance, they approached me and said, Vladimir Putin is meeting Barack Obama at, I think it was the G20 summit in 2015. We want you to, we'll send you footage of this. Give us some body language analysis. Now, they only wanted 200 words. I could have written a book on the body language between Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin at the time. It was solid gold. It was priceless. There was tons to see. And more recently, OK Magazine, they approached me to cover the funeral of Prince Philip.
Okay.
And they wanted coverage of all the royal family during the funeral. They wanted live coverage, so they had a website team who were putting my comments online as I'd made them, right? So that was huge amount of fun. I was sat glued to the telly watching, with my phone going, okay, this, and this. And there was some nice things when Harry and William, who were not getting on at the time, were walking away from the funeral at the end. They actually got together and started chatting. And I made some comments about that. And my comments literally went, they rippled across the internet within seconds. As soon as the OK magazine had put it online, they went copy, 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 repost, repost, and then boom. It's great fun, great fun. Anyway, so I've been into body language for many, many years now. And when I became a hypnotherapist, it was natural to use body language and my knowledge of body language and linguistics to build rapport with clients because building rapport with clients is absolute key. They need someone they can trust. They need someone that they are going to, potentially pour their hearts out to, reveal their deepest, darkest secrets to, reveal their fears, their anxieties to. They need to feel safe when they reveal these things. And one way to make them feel safe is to build rapport, is to build that connection.
Can I
And
just say to
so,
people, sorry,
yeah,
just say to people
yeah,
watching this isn't fake rapport.
uh, yeah,
All we're doing is when we build rapport, we're accelerating a natural process.
yes,
If it's not there, it's not there.
yeah,
It's not a fake trust. So we can't, again, it, best way to explain it, we have to be trustworthy
yeah,
before we could even get to this stage. So what we're explaining here is how to accelerate a process
yeah.
rather than let nature take its course.
Yes. Thank you again. That's a hugely important point. And I delivered a similar talk, well, not quite this talk, but I delivered a talk at the UK Hypnosis Convention in 2025. And I spoke about authenticity.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter, how good you are at building rapport, you have to be passionate, you have to be authentic because the client will spot anyone who's faking it.
And do you know how
Okay,
they'll spot it? We are all experts at body language because we
spot on.
mastered it before we learned to talk.
Yes, we did.
And
Yep.
then we learned
We
to
were
talk and we forgot to use it.
Indeed. So yeah, as babies, we rely on reading body language to understand what our parents are giving us, and we use body language to a degree to speak back to them as well. But yeah, so we are experts at body language, and if the therapist isn't authentic, if the therapist isn't truly caring and passionate about what they're doing, the client will know that. As again pointed out, the tools I use simply enhance my my core beliefs, my core approach, and that is to be authentic and to care about my client. And so I use linguistics and I use my ability not only to read body language, but to display body language. And it's a thing. A lot of people will poo-poo body language, dismiss body language as, pseudoscience.
Yeah.
And I remember delivering a talk about body language to a Rotary club, and I did some demos. And at the end of it, after I'd finished, this guy who had been sitting in the front row, he leaned back in his chair. He folded his arms and he said, I don't believe in body language.
Ah,
And I looked at the rest of the audience and went, there you go. Point and question, right? He literally, it was the perfect contradiction. He displayed all this negative body language, closed posture, put his defensive arms in front of him, leaning away from me because he didn't want to know, and then declared he didn't believe in body language. Mind blown. Yes, there's a lot of science behind it. It's well researched. Scientists have analyzed, the brain is extremely well mapped. We don't know everything about the brain, but there are areas within the brain that are responsible for various aspects of body language. It's been broken down. The neuroscientists know the areas and what they do. Areas responsible for mirroring, areas responsible for empathy, areas responsible for making connections, for trust, for bonding, things like that. So yeah, this is real science stuff,
yeah.
right? But we don't need generally to know the science. We don't need to have an in-depth knowledge of the areas of the brain. We just need to know how to
We just need how
use
it
what we
works.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
say, if anyone out there, listen to this, if you've ever met anyone and you've had this real gut feeling you don't like them, it's because you've read them in that instant you
yeah,
saw them, you've read them. And there's been something that your mind has gone, no, trust your gut instinct.
absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So that's what I do.
And I invited you on this because I was at that UK Hypnosis Convention 2025. I
Yes.
sat through it. I bought a book. Then you scribbled your name in it. But it was a very good presentation because it talked about, as you say, the authenticity.
Mhm.
Everything we do, if it doesn't come from there, it doesn't work.
Yep.
Um,
Correct.
but the use of body language to calm people, we use it
Mhm.
for good.
Mhm.
And I'll let you take over.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So, how do we use it? What do we do, and how does it work? So, for instance, we have a partner brain that is full of mirror neurons, right? And these mirror neurons, they are activated when we do something, when we have an action that we perform. But not only are they active when we perform an action, if we see someone else perform the same action, they're activated. So you've got this instant rapport, you've got this instant connection. Oh, they're like me. All right. So that this this stimulates another part of the brain that changes our facial expression. And we're talking about Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory here. Now it's relatively controversial, and it's not fully explored, but there is some meat in this theory. So we co-regulate. So if, for instance, I put on a smiley face, so if we were in a party and I look relaxed and have a smiley face, we recognize all the positive expression, and we calm down. We see the safety aspects in our facial expression of another person, and we immediately calm down. We feel safe, we feel relaxed. And when we do that, our own facial expression changes to present that to other people. So, because we feel relaxed, our facial expressions present a relaxed facial expression, and other people read that and say, "Oh, I feel relaxed now." And so on and so on. So, in a party, you've got everyone co regulating. And sometimes that's when you suddenly, the mood will change and you pick up that, something's not right because it takes one person to have maybe a stern facial expression. Someone else reads that, they become concerned and look stern or different or concerned. Someone else reads that concern and it ripples through the party again. You walk in, you go, oh. But yeah, so there's various ways we can use linguistics and ability to read body language um, with our clients. One way, for instance, is to listen to, so one way, for instance, is to read the client's body language. So if they, the droopy shoulders, they might have a downward gaze. That might indicate guilt, shame. It might indicate they're tired. It might indicate they're depressed. It's all contextual. But the last thing you want to do is go, "Hi, how are you?" And let's get on with the first session, right? You're going to immediately distance that person from you because your approach is entirely different from their emotional state, right? The two of you couldn't be further apart. So you look at your client, you look at their body language, you perhaps listen to the way they're speaking, are they down, are they slow? And you don't have to look depressed, but what you can do is just relax your shoulders, be calm, and present to them more calmly, more gently. Give them that space to be, right?
Be
And you're
empathetic.
going to get a much better connection, okay? So it's all about paying attention to your client. The next thing you can do is listen to the linguistics, listen to the language patterns, listen to the words they use. So, if, for instance, they say, "Oh, I just feel like, work is overwhelming. I feel like I'm drowning." So, you're not going to answer with something like, "Don't worry about that. We can fix you." Okay, again, that's completely miles apart from where they are. It's going to create distance. What you can say is, you know, "I appreciate that you're really struggling. I hear that you're drowning and feel overwhelmed. But don't worry, let's talk our way through this and see how we can help you," right? So you're repeating back words that they have used and you're listening to what they have said. You're also validating how they feel. And validation is incredibly important. Validation, so many people are concerned that it's only them. So many people are concerned that people won't believe me, people won't trust me, people think I'm lying. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only person in the world that feels this way. And if you can validate their feeling by saying, "Yeah, a lot of people feel that way when they're in a hard working environment and they're under a lot of pressure. I understand how you feel," right? You're validating their experience and
And
you're
I would
using
say,
words that they use. Yeah.
I would say that with that validation, then allows them the acceptance. In our work,
Yeah.
particularly, acceptance is a massive thing.
Yep.
You can't
Yep.
get over something if you don't accept it, or you can't get on with something if you can't accept it.
I mean that's one thing. One of the most powerful techniques you can use, and it's the three golden rules, is mirror, pace, and lead. Okay, these are the three pillars of rapport: mirror, pace, and lead. So with mirroring, what we do is we observe our client, and initially what we can do is we've touched on this briefly. We mirror, and I'll be cautious, we don't mimic. Okay,
Mm.
let's get this clear. We don't mimic, we mirror, and I'll explain that more fully in a second. We mirror the client's linguistics, the The words they use, as I've mentioned before, perhaps the pace in which they use these words, the pace in which they speak. We mirror their body language, the mannerisms that we have. We don't mimic. So, for instance, if the client maybe you know strokes their beard, right? For instance, while they're talking about a subject, yeah, we might look at them and go, "Oh, really?" And we might just touch our face casually, okay? It's a similar action, but it's not mimicking. We don't go, "Oh, really?" They'll think we're really taking the mickey there. And if they think you're copying them deliberately, you have lost rapport, you've lost any chance because you've been caught out as you know trying some kind of pseudoscientific nonsense with copying exactly what they're doing and hope to build rapport. It doesn't work like that. So we mirror, we copy the linguistic patterns, we copy their breathing patterns, we mimic them. We don't mimic them, we
Mimic,
just
don't mimic, don't mimic.
mirror them. We mirror them, okay? Um, we use words that they use. We again, to a degree, we copy the way they might present to us in some of their body language. Once we've established that, that creates, again, we're talking polyvagal theory,
Mm.
we're talking mirroring neurons, they all become active, they all become, the subconscious thoughts are, oh, this person is like me, this person sounds a bit like me, we have a lot in common, this is interesting, I can relate to this person. And then you pace. Now, when you pace, that means you walk, metaphorically, you walk side by side with this person. This is where the validation comes in, right? So, walking side by side with this person, pacing with them, going at their pace. As I said before, they might say, I feel overwhelmed, I feel like I'm drowning, and you pace with them. I hear that you're in a stressful job. No wonder you feel like you're drowning. You're using these words, but you're with them on the journey. You're side by side. You're relating to them as they talk you through their situation. Okay, you're with them. Again, once you've established that rapport, okay, at that level, you can then lead. And a prime example of this might be in I mean, we can use this not just in an interview with a client, but we can use this in hypnosis as well. So, for instance, if I wanted to, under hypnosis, if I wanted to pace with the client, I might say, and as you sit there with your eyes closed, you can feel the support of the chair beneath you. You can feel your feet on the floor. So you're with them. They can appreciate all of these things. These are sensory things that they cannot deny. They exist. Their feet are on the floor, so they can feel that. They are supported by the chair. They can feel that. And you can watch the breathing. You can say as your breathing settles, right? Again, watch the breathing, and as it settles, you can say, as your breathing settles. So you're pacing, you're going with them on that journey. But then you can lead. So that might sound like, so as your breathing settles, you become aware of a sense of calm. Now, they may not have been aware of a sense of calm until now, but because you've developed that pacing side by side, when you suggest something new to them, they accept it very, very readily. Okay, because they've got that connection and it's easy to make that suggestion, and it's even easier for the client to actually create that within their own mind. Okay, so that's pacing and leading. Once you're leading, that is when the client is open to new suggestions, new approaches, new directions, new ideas, change. That's when the change begins to happen.
And I had an interesting conversation with someone on this very subject, but we were also talking
Mm,
about resonance. And in my
okay,
work, I I probably try to resonate more than anything else because
okay.
I think with the resonance comes understanding. But I know having a
Mhm.
conversation with you, you explained it a bit better than me.
Okay,
So
fine. Yeah. Okay, so what do we do with this knowledge? What do we do with this understanding? And what do we do once we built a rapport, a strong connection with our client at a deeply subconscious level? Because when we when we apply these tools, when we apply this approach, and when we apply our knowledge and understanding of body language and linguistics, the science behind it, what do we actually do with it? So the key thing is this, that when you learn to observe and learn about body language, if we haven't actually touched on any of the body language aspect, like, what does this mean? A closed posture. What does a closed posture mean? Why might they close their posture? Do they feel, like under attack? Are they taking a defensive stance? What happens when they rub the back of the neck? Why would you rub the back of your neck? What happens when they start to rub their hands together? We haven't actually explored any of that body language, and this isn't probably the place to do that,
No,
right?
because we're not running a training course. We're running information
Yes,
podcast.
yes.
So
So I would, before you start, I would suggest that you get a really good book on body language. One of my go-tos is the Body Language Bible by Judy James. She's an incredible person, and where is it? I've referenced her several times. There it is. Okay, this is an excellent book. I know it's not mine. Judy James, Body Language Bible. Okay.
and we will pop the link in down
Sure,
below.
yeah.
So
This is a classic book, all right? Um, Read it. It's one you can just dive into. I would suggest you read it cover to cover, but you don't have to. You can just go to the contents of the index if you want a specific bit of information, just dive in. Even now, when I do bird language gigs, if I'm stuck on anything, that is my go-to book. Absolute go-to book is Judy James' Body Language Bible. Anyway, so learn to observe because observation is key. Understanding people's gestures, people's movements, people's sometimes their gestures can be fleeting, and that's called a micro reaction. A micro reaction can last between anywhere between a fifth down to a 25th of a second. And it's just that fleeting moment where, you might see a quick frown or a cringe or whatever. It's fleeting, but be aware of it. Notice it. Your subconscious will notice it, and that will help you. Okay, your subconscious will definitely notice it. And that might just give you that kind. If you listen to your subconscious might just whisper that in your ear. That there was something there, something happened there, right? And that is where we use what we've learned, we use what we understand about body language and linguistics. As therapists, we can use these things to lead our client to where they need to be. For instance, if a client's talking about something and maybe they're talking about a situation as a child with their mother, and maybe as they explain it, their voice falters for a second, or maybe they mention a specific word or incident and they start to look down. There's a shift in their posturing. They start a downward gaze, or maybe it's a fleeting moment of when they remember it and they jar for a moment, or maybe they start to cough. Do a kind of dry throat cough, and they struggled with the words suddenly. These observational things, shifts, are priceless because you can then explore these things. For instance, you might say, you know, I noticed that when you were talking about your mum and dad arguing, your voice started to falter. What is that about? What happened there? Would you like to explore that some more? Would you like to tell me how you felt at that point? Because you're touching on a key point. You're touching on an important point that's possibly pivotal to your therapy work, right? So observe, see something that's out of a change in the body language, pick up on it and gently probe, gently question. Might be nothing, might be something. That's why we do what we do.
And quite often that is the key to the door.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you are a body language expert. Trust yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Just trust yourself.
It's good to, read up on body language. It's good to become more aware through the help of a book, a good book, to know what to look for and to know what that might imply, right? What the implications of that tell. So body language, if we see a body language aspect of a body language thing, like a twitch or a like that, it's a tell. It's called a tell. So if we can spot tells and we understand the origins of these tells, then that really arms as well because there's so many things we're used to seeing that we no longer notice them
You
because we're
don't
so used
register
to
it.
seeing them.
Yeah.
And so if you just read up on it and re-educate yourself, it brings it back to your attention. Oh, never thought of that. That's interesting, right? So there's Graham. He's showing interest because he's now in deep
Yeah.
thought because he's put his hand on his chin, right? So he's thinking about that now.
And I didn't do
So
that deliberately.
no, I know.
No.
So
But I
you
was going to
actually
say,
did, you
if
literally did it
yeah,
as I did it.
yeah.
So
Mm.
we're now, we've now built
Oh
that
God, we're
rapport.
twins.
Yeah, yeah. You can play this back, right? So
Yeah. No, I want to cut
we
this
we,
out.
we mirrored we mirrored we mirrored one another, right? Because we're creating this
Yeah,
rapport as we chat.
yeah.
So
And I was going to say, if you're interested in doing this and seeing how it works, go to the park at lunchtime and people watch.
absolutely.
Watch
Yep.
people on their phones because people are always walking around the park on their phones and judge whether they're enjoying the conversation or not.
Mhm.
Are they happy? Are
Yep.
they sad? Are they angry? Are they talking to someone they want to be talking to or not? And
Yep.
you'll suddenly become so quick at picking it up because
So
you will start to learn to observe.
yep. Watch a movie with
Mm,
the sound down. Okay. Watch an interaction on the
mm.
TV with the sound down. And then watch it again with the sound up, where you write, where the people arguing, where the people talking about something nice, where the people talking about something not so nice. What was going on? Did you get it? Did you read it? Without any verbal cues, did you read the body language?
Now, there is a book from Derek Heron.
Yes,
It's the only book ever written for therapeutic work
this
using
is
body work
true.
for therapists. There's
This is
been
true.
body language for FBI investigations and police and this, that, and the other. But this is how to use it as a therapist. So even if you're not a therapist, but you're really interested in fostering links with people, this is the one to go for because you're not
Yeah,
trying to catch people out, which a lot of the body language books are about. You're actually fostering a relationship with this book. So
yeah.
stick the book up. I know you've got it ready.
Okay, so it's body language report for therapists, coaches, and everyday connections. So no matter where you are in your journey, if you are a coach or therapist, great. If you're not, if you just want to read more and learn more about body language, this is the book. It's the only one specifically written for therapists, but it's more than applicable to just everyday connection. There's a section about body language, very basic. Buy it, buy Julie James' book for the bigger picture of body language and the origins and what all these subtle cues mean. But there is a section of body language to get you started. And then the second section, it's all about how you use it if you're a therapist, how to use it if you're a coach, and how to use it for just general everyday connection.
And
Okay.
that's what I love about the book is it is a good introduction and it is very much, even though it's written for therapists, it's very, very
Yeah.
good for everyday life.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
go out, people watch, enjoy, and
Yes.
you will suddenly realize how good you are at it
Yeah. Yeah.
because you are. We're all experts.
Yep.
It's
And now
just
that
we
you're all
learned to talk and we forgot to watch.
Yep. Now you're all grown up.
Yeah.
Practice it and regain that skill that you have. Regain it, fine tune it. You're right. You've lost it. You forget you use it. Actively, consciously use it from now on.
There you go. That's your homework set. So thank you all for watching. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Hope you got a lot of use out of it. I'm Graham Wood from Rapid Change Hypnosis. Remember, hit that subscribe button that's down there. It's not over there, it's down there. Hit that subscribe button. Enjoy the rest of the videos, and thank you for your time. See you all later.